Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of Dope Synergies. This episode is very special because today is also our 1 year anniversary. Happy 1 year.
Official.
Yes. Official, because where we left off last time was
our first day meeting each other. We really, and we were talking about this throughout the week. I actually listened back to our episode and I realized we went into the weeds of that day, but I think it was like so cool to like reminisce and go back memory lane on like how it all happened, because it was really creepy and with the title of Manifesting Your Life Partner. So I figured it would be helpful for you guys to go, going through the details. But today's episode, we're going to kind of walk you through the next kind of 3 months in dating, because a lot of stuff happened. Yeah, it was a slight honeymoon phase. And, we'll go into the details of that. But it's just crazy to look back at, it's been a year where we officially, and even the way that happened was very nonchalant. It wasn't like anything crazy. But I'm very grateful.
Me too. I'm always grateful for the journey, and anything that I do.
It has been a journey.
It's definitely been a journey. And we hope that the episode isn't just for us to sit here and like talk about us. It's really with the purpose to inspire others and just kind of share that even though, we're on a path to creating a healthy relationship and, set those boundaries that we ideally want in a partner and live life, on our own terms with our ideal partner. It doesn't mean that shit's always easy and that it's perfect, right? It's like there's always challenges, and how we navigate through those challenges, I'm realizing that's really the key, right? And being committed. And that was one of the things that I told her at first, is when I met her, I just felt so sure that I was going to be with her and felt so sure that I was 100% committed, which is something I wasn't, I had never felt before, because I was maybe not even in alignment with myself for me to be that confident, to feel that. But yeah, with last episode, we went into details, which I thought was really cool, because we want these episodes to also free flow and
be
not be, we don't want it to be like our other episodes our other podcasts where it's very business structured, and we will be, sharing some investment insights on here from time to time, because you'll hear it throughout our journey and our conversation. And we're always here to help with that as well, right? But on this episode, we figured, okay, we won't go into the small nitty-gritty details, but there's a lot that happened. Once we came back from Vegas, we ended up having our first date, right? At Terranea.
You went all out. Let me
I
just
did.
Tell you.
You
not being from SoCal, and living there. I think I hadn't even lived there a year either. So I wasn't really familiar with like the cool spots.
She didn't know about, PV, Palos Verdes area. And then, me, I pretty much surfed down the street from there. So it was really nice to have our first date there. And I was like, oh, let's meet at Terranea. We met there. And
because it was your birthday that week.
Right.
And so we didn't see each other. It was like almost over a week. It felt like the longest week ever. But it was really special because I missed your birthday. So it was.
But we had
really
just
nice.
met too. So
yeah,
it was like
weird.
It was awkward because I invited her to my birthday at the beach where I was having like the surf, meetup. But it was too soon, like I had just met her in Vegas and I'm inviting her to my birthday thing. So I was like, all right, if she doesn't come through, it's cool. Like, I get it. I'm overreacting here. So we met about a week after that, to almost 2 weeks at Terranea as our first official date. And once again, the energy was there. We were so connected. I felt like I knew her for such a long time. And as we're sitting there, Terranea has different restaurants, and we were kind of just, at that time we were drinking too, and we were drinking a lot. And I know that a lot of couples can relate, especially in the honeymoon phase. You kind of do things to let your guard down, you
loosen
up, or, also to satisfy the other person. You're like, oh, well, let me take them out and let's drink.
Well, you're always like conscious of like, what am I going to say? Or what am I doing?
And when you have drinks,
stiff.
all that goes away, right? Like all the anxiety goes away, what you have, what you're thinking about goes away. So yeah, we were drinking at the time, which is not like the best now looking back at our sober, now that we're sober, but I'm still grateful for the journey, right? So we're drinking, we're having a good time. And I'm the type that, I mean, I'm just go, 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 right? Like I'll take action on something that I like right away. So she was sharing that she was going on a solo trip to Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
And I booked my flight right then and there.
You
She was
did.
like, "Do you want to? Maybe you can join. Like, I already have the Airbnb.
You already had it lined up in your
And
head.
as she's talking, I'm like on my phone, and I'm like, booked. Like, what dates again?
Yeah, I was like, ooh, just
On
the
top of that, I
attraction.
was a little bit tipsy already too. So it's like swipe the card.
Yeah, and I think it just showed me like too, because I was that type of person that took action once I made up my mind. So we're very similar in that sense. So that was really cool because I really wanted to, but I didn't want to be too forward in asking someone that I barely met like a couple days, right? Like, hey, you want to go on a trip
And that
with me?
speaks a lot too, because it's like, damn, you're down to go with this person who you just met for about
Out of
2
the
weeks,
country.
out of the country, and for 4 days, and we haven't even hung out for more than a couple hours, let
Right.
alone
Sober,
like, sober,
be
be with somebody, for 4 days, and like practically live with them, right, and coordinate a whole vacation, basically. So
Right.
that was interesting, but I felt once again, I felt so much clarity and confidence in my heart that we were gonna vibe. Like we were both, like she said, we both take action. We're both very go with the flow. So I think
Right.
like in a relationship, I was listening to something the other day that said, um, you have to have some sort of flexibility in order for a relationship to work. So you can't be so rigid to where you want things to go a certain way.
Right.
And one thing about us is like we'll get up and go and we do trips, but we're very with the flow. Like we don't, let certain little things on a day to day affect us, if things don't go our way. So I think having that flexibility helped a lot, especially for that, that specific trip. But overall, it was a great trip. I mean, we came back sick as fuck. That was a whole
Oh my
other
God.
thing.
Yeah,
We were
I
like
swear, I thought I
dying,
had COVID.
which was another bond, right? Because
Yeah.
we came back sick and
And took care
now
of each
just
other.
met her a month ago and now we're taking care of each other. It was interesting.
Yeah, and I think I think people do recommend going on trips because I think early you get to learn a lot about the person you're dating. So if you don't feel that connection, obviously, kind of ease into it. But
Right.
because we felt that right away, I think it's a really good indicator of like the relationship because you're in uncharted territories. Given like, granted, we both speak Spanish, so it wasn't like something where we're like super uncomfortable, but it's a whole new environment. It was the home, the place we were staying in wasn't ours. So we learned that and you've even shared with me, I can't travel with people because I don't like people in general. And so you were able to, live with me for 3 days or however many days you were here. And we just made it a really amazing experience. I highly recommend it. We're even thinking of going out there for Christmas, possibly. Right. So,
I mean, we've talked about even like being able to work from there from time to time.
That was originally my plan. So before I met her, I was like, I was working from home, with my previous job. And I was like, why am I living here? Like, let me try. I've always wanted to live like, the remote kind of nomads, just like working out of coffee shops and stuff like that. In Mexico City, I heard was really great. It was affordable. So I tried it out, and being there, because I was there a couple of days by myself, and then you met up with me halfway through. It was a really awesome experience. Like I can see myself living there. Just I love like the energy and stuff like that. So highly recommend Mexico City. But yes, we got back. We got back from the trip super sick, and I never get sick. I mean, for the longest time, I think the last 5 years, I only got sick like twice. So like for us to get sick like that, I was like, shit, I got COVID or something like that. But like, yeah, it drew us closer together because we took care of each other. Like when she wasn't feeling well and I was feeling somewhat better, I would take care of her. And then when I would get really sick or not feel well, she was there.
And we took a trip coming back from Mexico City where we got even more sick, which was Lake Arrowhead. It was like up in Big Bear, not too far from Hollywood where we were staying at, but it was a lot in a relationship, I mean, you just met, you travel together, now you're sick in bed and you got to take care of each other. You really get to know the person that you're going to spend time with, right? Or that you're dating.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave us that opportunity. So we were able to do that. And then after that, you know, we
A lot
still
of stuff
took a
happened.
lot of stuff happened. We took a lot of trips. Now, mind you, let me backtrack too. Alex wasn't with me at the
I
time.
hadn't met Alex too. I was going to
She
mention that.
hadn't met Alex at all. And that was something that I was very protective over because I was like, let me first see what this is going to look like. But you guys are probably like, well, where the fuck was Alex this whole time?
He's taking care of himself.
Yeah, he's taking care of himself. No. At the time, I had this agreement like with his dad's side of the family where it was mainly like the grandma who would once a year really help out, and she would take him to Mexico for a month. But because I was dating her, we actually extended that. Alex wanted to stay. He was having a blast, you know, at the ranch or wherever he was at. So he wanted to stay another month, and it was during like summer school. So all this was during that summertime, right? So now we're like hitting June. Alex leaves. So he goes with his grandma and his dad's side of the family.
But I did actually meet him before that.
Before he left.
Yeah, like it was like a brief, like I met you guys. You guys had a surfing trip, and
we had a surf lesson, and she met up with us for brunch. So it was about an hour that you met him,
mm-hmm.
and it was more of an introduction of like, hey, here's my friend. But he had seen me FaceTime her FaceTime all the time. So yeah, they did meet, but then he left. So then it was like our honeymoon phase started, right? We traveled to Mexico City.
Yeah, it's like we were single,
and well, kidless.
Well, I just mean kidless.
Kidless, yeah. And we were having a blast, you know. So I knew that I had to. I'm very intentional with my time. So the times when Alex would leave with his dad's side of the family for once a year, previous stuff would be working, you know, and I'd be doing meetups or traveling on my own. So doing it with her, I was just very grateful to have somebody to share that time with and not be alone. You know, sometimes as moms, we get very attached to our kids, and when we don't have our kid, we're like, what do I do? I've never really been that type, though. I somehow always managed to keep myself busy. But it was nice to have her there. So we were just traveling. But I knew in the back of my head, I'm like, shit, this shit's going to get real when Alex comes back.
And I was thinking about it, too.
And I kept telling her, I was like,
you better be ready.
And she's like, I'm ready.
Well, yeah, if we go back to like, I don't think I've shared this, but my background, I used to work with kids for like 9 years. I worked through after school programs. So K through 8.
Which has helped now. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it has helped out a lot, but it's different. It's a whole different dynamic because I clock out at 6 p.m. Right. So I'd run programs from 12 to 6. And then it's like, all right, hand off the kid to the parent. Let me be irresponsible and do, you know, ratchet stuff, whatever the case may be.
You just don't have the responsibility.
The responsibility is released at 6 p.m. So although I was mentally preparing for it, but it like 2 months seemed like a long time. So I was like, let me just be in the moment. And also kind of backtracking, a lot of stuff happened then because during that time, I think it was June, my roommate who I was living with at the time in North Hollywood had mentioned to me that he got laid off. And we decided to go month to month. And literally the day after, he got laid off by his job. And I was like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. But that got me thinking, I need to, because the place was originally with my ex, and I had found a roommate. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, it probably doesn't make sense to find another roommate. I should probably just live super below my means and rent a room for like $800 a month or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so this was something we're deciding. And then literally a day or two after,
I was there too.
Yeah, I hop on a meeting with my CEO, and he's like, you know, hey, there's a lot of things happening. We're trying to save money. We're gonna have to let you go. But it was like a slow, progressive like layoff.
It was we're gonna let you go, but 2 months from now.
Yeah, you're right. Like, but we need to finish this project. So, you know, this is what it is. And hey, we'll pay you through this date. And I was like, well, let me get this shit done. Let me get all this stuff done. But, and mind you too, like I was already kind of over it. I'd been with this company for 6 years. It was like, great. I grew a lot. But at some point, you know, you're just ready for the next sort of challenge. And I was like, okay, this is the opportunity, but it still hits you. Like you got rejected. in a way, right? You got told, hey, we don't want you, and it's, I don't try to look at it like that
it's
way.
not even, well, you probably took it personal because you were there for 6 years, but
Right.
me looking at it from outside, and I'm like, it's just a company and they're trying to make their numbers make sense.
And I knew it. That was my perspective
And,
too.
you know, we want to thank you guys for watching and tuning into our channel every week, and for just sharing all of your feedback for all of our episodes. If you guys can
subscribe, follow us on all the social channels. We are at Dope Synergies on IG, YouTube. Obviously, we can say the same spiel. It helps with the algorithm, but we really appreciate your support.
It is what it is. That's the disadvantage of working for a company, and it can happen to any of us. So it really brought a lot of perspective. And I remember her walking into the room, and I just knew it was weird because like her energy was completely off. She obviously wasn't there. So I was like, either, yeah, like something happened to her family or she got laid off. Those were my two instant things, right, that I thought of. And what's crazy is like,
I called it too.
Yeah,
I called it. I knew something was going to happen. So I was like, okay, my original plan is still like, how can I stretch, me getting paid up until a certain time, work. But during this time, you were starting to look, because you were living. I
was living in Long Beach, at my house, and I was like, okay, well, commuting from Long Beach to Hollywood's too much. At the same time, I'm thinking like ahead, right? When Alex comes back, well, how are all three of us gonna work and like live together?
But that wasn't even the thought first. It wasn't. We're gonna have our separate. It was like, hey, I'm gonna look for a room
place
myself.
That's closer, yeah,
closer to Long Beach or Orange County, and then you were gonna look for a place or something along.
We were both gonna look for a place somewhere where we'd be closer, but it didn't make sense because we were hanging out most of the time. So what are we gonna go do, rent 2 rooms for, when we could just save that
you have
money
to go by
together?
The rules of like the house where you can't have guests or things of that nature.
Right.
So that's when we decided, and you just threw it out there, and this is where like go with the flow. And I'm very much like that. You're like, it makes no sense for us to rent separate rooms. We'll be together most of the time anyways. Let's just move in together, or let's find a room together. Hey, here, I found this room.
Right.
And let's just stay here. And at first I was like, I didn't want to, like, it was going so well. But there was like so much going on that I wanted to, but at the same time, I was like, is this going to change anything? Like the dynamic of us moving in together? Because I know how that is. I
mean, I knew how that was too but it had been so long for me. I mean, it had been almost 7 years at that point. And even then, when I did live with somebody, it wasn't the best experience. So in my mind, I'm just like, part of me was like, think about it, Steph. And then the other half was like, no, but you're more healed now. Things are supposed to go better for you. And so I was being very optimistic, obviously, about the situation, but also very, very mindful about what she was going through. So if you think about it, that same year, she's going through a divorce. She's getting laid off. Her roommate's laid off.
To move.
She has to move. And then, we're in the peak of our honeymoon phase, right? On my end, I'm good. I'm like, Alex is on vacation. I have all the time in the world to spend with her and hang out and work and do this and do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, what?
And I think this is actually one of the first sort of like challenges that we had to we were sort of tested.
We were, because I remember that day I left your place. Remember, I was like,
yeah,
you got laid off.
Yeah, or I was like, I was just kind of like,
you were packing up your stuff.
I was packing, and I honestly felt overwhelmed because I'm like, damn, I just moved here like it hadn't even been a year since I moved there. So, and mind you, like my prior life, I literally moved like almost every year for like 5 years consistently. Mm-hmm. And so like, although I'm used to like being on the move from like, my childhood, I was really looking forward to like really building, and we talk about it too, like how much we miss that room. Like I really loved where I lived.
Yeah, the
energy, like I had my boxing gym, like walking distance. It was just really awesome. And I don't know if I was ready to let that go. I wanted to obviously live with you. That wasn't even the problem. It was just like, dang, I have to let go. And there was like so many memories attached to the items and the furniture.
And then
It
the
was just a
location
lot.
too. It wasn't just the room. It was like her whole life revolved
It
around
all
that
revolved.
area.
So I was overwhelmed, and I was telling you, and you were like, and this is where we learned how we work differently when we're going through challenges. I'm the type of person where it's like, yeah, I'll explain you my challenges or what I'm going through, but I need you to like just be there and consolidate me. Whereas you, when
So
you're
she's a lot more feminine, which is crazy, right? Like
yes,
she's a lot more feminine in that sense
and
where she wants to be held and like
I do
she's expressing, but the way it comes off, it's almost like you want space.
right,
So, but you don't. It's like you want the total opposite
right,
of space, which is comfort, support, be there, and like not to be left alone.
right.
And I did the total opposite. I was like, but I didn't know this yet, right? We're trying to get to know each other. I'm the total opposite, and I'm like changing that to some extent because I don't want to change who I am, but I am changing the fact of like communicating that. But I'm total opposite where when I'm going through a tough time,
You need your
I
space.
need space or I need to just like clear my head and go to the beach by myself, type of vibe. So that day when she was packing up her stuff, I could tell she was just overwhelmed, right? Just got laid off, you got to move out, roommates moving out, and then where do you move to? It's like all these different things. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go home.
And I didn't communicate this either. Like
Right.
I communicated like, yeah, I'm overwhelmed. But when you're like, hey, I gotta go, I wanted to respect you. I'm like, okay, maybe she's dealing with whatever. But really internally, I was like, no, don't go. My
Yeah,
friend is
and me, I'm like, well, she seems like she's going through a lot right now. Let me just give her space. In my mind, I'm like, the best thing I could do is give her space because we know each other at this point, but it's been a month.
but we
that
don't
we've known
really
each other.
know each other.
So we really don't know each other. I was like, let me just go home and let her figure out this stuff, and I'll be in the back. And as I'm driving home, I'm like, I shouldn't have left. I should have stayed with her. We were talking and FaceTiming, and I was like, again, we're just getting to know each other. After that, we ended up we had all these trips lined up since Alex wasn't going to be here. I was very intentional with my time. So we mapped out all these trips. Yep. And, I think we also had at that time, we went to San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. We did a road trip to SF to visit my niece. My niece was born during that time too.
Which is around that time. Yeah.
Because she's turning 1 next month.
So then we did a 6-hour,
yeah, we did a road trip together. She met my family. My dad was visiting and obviously staying with my brother. So it was really cool. And you were kind of hesitant about that too. So like I hadn't met your family yet.
Right.
And that can be another episode.
Yeah, she still hasn't.
But like I'm very close. We have a very small family, very tight knit. Just my dad, my brother, my mom. I'm not like too close with, but she lived there, so she got a chance to meet everybody, and it all turned out great. We went to a Giants game. We just did really fun things. So we did a SF road trip. We then went to, I think where we mentioned this, Mexico. Went to Ensenada.
And you don't, when you're dating the honeymoon phase, which is kind of like the theme today, you don't think about all these things, right? So I'm like, yeah, she's laid off. We'll figure it out. Like, we're going to figure this out. And so you're still somewhat optimistic, but then you're also delusional to some extent where you don't call out these tough conversations. So we were just going with the flow. So we go to SF. Then we had a trip.
It was almost like distractions. The trips were used as a distraction.
Right.
For like really confronting these issues. And I honestly, looking back, I probably didn't want to accept it. And it was easy to look forward to these trips without really thinking about it. Like, okay, how am I going to go about doing this? I was applying for jobs. And at that time I was applying for the job here in Miami when we actually went out to Miami.
So after SF, we ended up coming back and then we went to Miami and then Puerto Rico and then back to Miami. And during that trip, we felt very inspired to say, you know what, maybe we should make the move here. Her dad lives in Hollywood, which is not far from Miami. And that's what kind of sparked the move, because she's like, oh, well, I can look for a tech job out here and it gives me enough time. This was around July.
It was July.
So June, July, August, right? We're recapping these 3 months where Alex is gone half the time. We're traveling that entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've also came up with this idea of moving to Miami, which is, if you don't know, all the way across the country.
It is. Yeah.
Like, if you look at it on the map, it's literally on the other side of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I was down. I was like, you know what? I've never really moved from Long Beach. I mean, I have, now that I look back, but I've always came back to Long Beach.
But you're always within Cali for the most part, pretty close.
I lived in Mexico for about a year. I also lived in El Centro for about 8 months. Then I moved also to Palm Springs, different areas in Palm Springs. But I always ended up coming back home, which was Long Beach to me. So coming back home to Long Beach, I've been there, raised my whole life. Like moving out here was a big change, right?
Even for me.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. We're going to talk about that. But, you know, the highlight of this is that we had all these trips. It was amazing. You know, we had a lot of great experiences and a lot of ideas sparked from that, especially like moving here. But shit still hasn't got real, right? Like, well, she's going through her stuff, but we still haven't figured out the dynamics of her, like, really getting to know my kid and all of us
and
living together,
know each other,
and then making sure that like Alex was good too, right? That was one of my main concerns, and she knew this. Like, if my son is just not okay with this, like, it's hard for me to be okay with this, right? And we had to just be super transparent, which we'll get to on the next episode. But yeah, it was overall nice trips. It was a really good honeymoon phase. But even then, you know, you're going through challenges. And I think a lot of couples, or just people in general, right? You may see people on Instagram, like, they're super happy and they're going through this and that. I mean, we were posting our vacations and stuff, but you never know what people are going through in the back end.
Right. Because nobody talks about that or really posts like, oh, like, you know, me and my wife had a disagreement today and this is how we handle it, or I'm still mad at her, or whatever the case may be. It's not glamorous to really showcase that on, you know, Instagram or.
And I think even for us, it was like that Instagram highlight, right? It was 2 months, because I don't think we really got into arguments yet.
No,
we were really.
No. I mean, like I said, the only challenge was like once I got laid off, and like that was just a little taste. But
it wasn't even an argument. It was more like, let me give her space.
But it was just a challenge, a little hump. It was a baby hump. It was nothing. Yeah. But it was enough. It was like, it kind of really built the foundation of where we're at now, where it's like, hey, you know, no matter what, like, I got you. And then, you know, just saying we got each other at the end of the day, because we're committed. And we were talking about commitment. Right. And that's all it is. Like, once you have commitment, you got to be ready for the ride. You got to be ready for the honeymoon phase. You got to be ready for those challenges. So I think it was like a really good indicator of like who you are as a person and how we can work through the challenges together. But looking back, I think, yeah, those trips were amazing, but it was sort of a distraction leading into what we'll talk about in the next episode, which is picking up Alex and shit getting really, really, really real. So we'll leave you a little cliff, leave you guys on the cliff for the next episode. But really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys got a lot out of it. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and again, on IG and YouTube, we are at Dope Synergies. And
and share your feedback too. We want to hear if anything that we're saying, if any, you know, resonates with you guys, or you guys have experienced some of the same things, whether you're in the gay community or not. You know, I think
relationships are relationships,
right?
At the end of the day.
Right, they really are, and that's one thing I'm realizing now that I'm new to the LGBT.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll get it right.
You gotta leave that up to me for now. But can we appreciate these shirts first off before we hop off?
Yes.
I got this.
Shout out to her 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, shout out to the 1 year. I got her these shirts for her birthday. I was like, I don't feel right creating one for her that's like all me without creating one for myself. So
what's funny is Alex wore this one. We took a picture of it.
Yeah, we did.
That's cute.
Yeah,
that's super nice. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Sunday, and
peace.
Bye.